So this is going to be sort of a ramble video, more of a throwaway video. I want to make a couple videos, some of which I have half done already, and I would not release them in the current climate here on YouTube because the comment notifications are broken. And this is driving down view counts, this is driving down interaction on the videos, and it's been a week now. Holy shit, and it's not fixed. You break something like that, and you see that it's fucking broken, and it's affecting the whole website. It's probably costing, GooTube fucking millions of dollars a day, and they haven't set it back. You break something like that, fucking set it back. How hard would it be to take that line of code and go, you know what? Hold off on that until we have all the other shit done. But apparently YouTube and Google Plus are being disconnected from each other. I don't know how that's going to work when, there's now a lot of people who only have Google Plus accounts and don't have YouTube accounts, because that was possible under this system. Also, just subscribing to people with just an email address is possible under the system that they created. So yeah, I don't see how they're going to pull this off without really setting us back years. Okay. Anyways, because I want to hold off on releasing those videos until comment notifications come back, because I don't want to gimp the reach of those videos, I'm just going to respond to some weird comments I got on my last video, which was a response to Generation Zero films, where I answered 10 questions, and there's all sorts of 10 questions videos in the world. 10 questions for atheists, 10 questions for libertards, 10 questions for whatever. I answered his 10 questions. And one of those answers that I gave, out of all of the questions, got some attention of 2 people. 2 fucking people who commented, because people know comments are fucking broken. I'm not going to get a notification anyway unless I go back and check my video. Why even fucking comment? So, first one was JC Rebel 18. He said, "Have you read Machiavelli's The Prince by any chance?" Yes. I had to read it for a college class, and I just refreshed my knowledge of it, and I can see how you would ask that question in light of me saying that I would vote for Hillary Clinton out of all those in the running right now, because it suits my own best interests, and I'm voting my interests, regardless of whatever you think about her history. I think that she would run the country in a way which would serve my best interests better. And I feel like there's not enough people who vote in their own interest. If there were, you wouldn't see a Republican Party. There's a lot of poor people who could have more social programs if liberal parties took over, and they still vote Republican because they're not voting in their own self-interest. Maybe they're voting in the interest of, if I one day start a company and become a millionaire, I want to be able to enjoy that. Maybe they're voting in that interest. They're voting on hopes, But chances are, lottery-esque, millions to one that they will ever, rise up out of their poverty and become a millionaire. So they're not voting in their immediate self-interest. They're voting in their hopes to one day become rich and be able to keep their riches. You agreed with me that Hannibal was a good show, and maybe that had something to do with asking me if I've read Machiavelli too. But on to Rubber Wilson's comment, the other of the two comments I got, because people know the comment system's broken. Rubber Wilbur, he said, I liked most of your responses, but the Hillary Clinton thing really puzzles me. Okay. She's been the nominee apparent for fucking years now. Why would it puzzle anyone that somebody actually wants her to run and win? I would highly recommend you pick up some books by Barbara Olson, who was very critical of Hillary Clinton and just coincidentally died on one of the planes during 9/11. What I have to say about that, and I'm going to link this in the description box. There's a Snopes article. You know, Snopes is the website where they do a lot of debunking on things. It's about the 100 or so deaths attributed to the Clintons. It's been passed around since 1998 in email form, and it keeps growing. And there's investigations done on all of these deaths. And when you have a large circle of friends, okay, you're going to have people in that circle, especially when you're an old politician, you're going to have people in that circle fucking die. And some of them are going to die by accidents. Some of them are going to die by heart attacks after already having heart complications and long histories with heart problems. And they're going to, be in a situation where their heart pills were right there, and they're still going to die because they had heart problems. Most everyone who dies with heart problems has fucking heart pills prescribed to them that were in some way close to them. Like they could have driven home, because they were at work, or they could have excused themselves from whatever speaking thing to go up to their hotel and get their fucking heart pills. Everyone who has a heart problem has some fucking heart pills that they could fucking take when they die. And some of them die because they took too many of them. But people are going to die. It's just statistically true that people are going to die when you have a large circle of friends and acquaintances, especially politicians, okay? You can make a list about every fucking politician or every fucking, even YouTuber with a large following, and you can make a list of everyone who's ever, paid attention to them and shaken their hand, maybe in person. A list of people who have died after that, right? And then you can do things when you talk about how they died, and you can make it seem like, oh, it maybe wasn't just a coincidence. Maybe this was a setup. Now, in Barbara Olson's case, this is the case that Rubber Wilson's talking about in his comment. There's a very big problem with saying that it was more than a coincidence that Barbara Olson was on that plane that crashed during the 9/11 attacks. Here's what's wrong with that. Barbara Olson decided on September 10th to not take a certain flight and instead take a flight that would have her waking up on her husband's birthday, which was September 11th. If you're trying to direct someone onto taking a particular plane, wouldn't that be like the original plan and not just some spur of the moment decision? You know what? I'd rather wake up and be with my husband on his birthday decision. She was the one who put herself on that plane by a last minute decision. Okay? It wasn't like some intricate thing played out to get her on that plane that was planned out for months, that she had that plane booked for. No. She just fucking got on that plane on the whim that she might be able to celebrate her husband's birthday. Okay? And that is fucking documented. Okay? Maybe you're still leaning towards this being a conspiracy whereby some agent of the Clintons might have been whispering into her ear, "Hey, wouldn't you rather celebrate your husband's birthday?" You know, maybe. But that to me seems like a very big stretch, given how much documentation was given to the circumstances of her getting on that plane by her husband. Next thing that Rubber Wilbur says, say that 10 times really fast. Rubber Wilbur, Rubber Wilbur, Rubber. Okay, he says, I don't know how you could look past the email scandal where she purposely hid classified emails on Benghazi where American soldiers died. First, I do not think that she hid emails on Benghazi where American soldiers died. I think she hid emails. And what was in those emails, much of that was probably personal information because it was a personal account. But that personal information might have been very salacious. You know, everyone's got their things, and especially in a political family that seems to have an open relationship, such as Bill Clinton, you know, still being married to her after having an affair. At least one, probably many, you know. This would really hurt her chances of having anything else said as she's running for president, if, you know, it would come out that she had some, you know, idea that her husband was doing other things. That's what I think was in those emails. It could be other personal things that, you know. But yeah, it was wrong for her to have official emails going to her personal account. It was wrong as far as the security is concerned, because, you know, every email host has its own security, and yeah, she presented a security breach to some stuff. Okay, I can forgive her for that. Yes, I'm looking past that. You say this is worse than Watergate for Nixon, by which, by the way, Hillary was one of the young lawyers prosecuting him. It doesn't surprise me that you can connect people in politics in one big incestuous circle where they meet each other at different times in history. But as far as worse than Watergate for Nixon, I would have said that Bill Clinton getting a blowjob from one of his interns, being, you know, that he had a position of authority over her, that was worse than Watergate for Nixon. And that motherfucker stayed in office, and he said, fuck you, anyone who's going to be the morality police on that. Rubber Wilbur goes on to say, this is not Fox News propaganda. I actually do my own research and reading. Okay, research Barbara Olson's death the day of, not just what she wrote about the Clintons. I would take Sanders or Biden over this woman any time. Hell, I would take Trump over Hillary. At least this guy is exposing these people. I would consider Biden. the reasons that I have for voting for Hillary are that she's more of a centrist. You could actually look at her as either being a conservative Democrat or a liberal Republican. You know, she could fit in either party as being the more centrist candidate, in my opinion. Biden the same. I don't want Sanders specifically because I don't want something from the extreme of either party. I think that Sanders' ideals, as stated by him, socialism, I mean, like, this is something that the extremist Republicans will slander all Democrats with, that they're all socialists. You know, this guy is fucking admitting it up front. And if we were going to head towards socialism, it would affect my way of life. Okay? I don't want socialism. He is a socialist, self-admittedly. Yeah, a lot of the things that he wants to work towards changing need to be overhauled, but socialism is not something that I want. As far as you wanting to take Trump over Hillary, I can see how Trump might present as a centrist because it's hard to really understand his views on anything except for that, you know, he puts out some very extreme, salacious things for the media. But I see Trump as something like a distraction. He is the distraction candidate. At a certain point, the media, especially Fox News, is going to stop paying attention to him. He's going to have that moment where he says, and we're going to go to Arizona and Vermont and Texas and you know, just like other politicians of the past, and they're suddenly going to say, hey, he sounds crazy now. Let's stop paying attention to him and start paying attention to the other candidates. And it seems a little less genuine this time around because he's already said those jump the shark things, and he still has a following. I'm surprised that he does, because saying that Mexicans are rapists is, like, to me, way over the top, and he still has people cheering for him. You know, and he still thinks that he's going to get their vote. He says that he's going to get the black vote, and stuff, and I'm like, what? You take Trump over Hillary. You say this in your thing here, Rubber Wilbur. Hillary hasn't had 4 bankruptcies, you know. Hillary was the first lady looking over her husband's shoulder, you know, as we had one of the most prosperous times in fucking American history. In the way of capitalism, not socialism, that I want to live. Okay? I'm going to flourish if Hillary Clinton gets elected and stays 8 years in office. The whole country is going to make money. And there's probably going to be some other things where she flirts with breaking the rules, just like Bill Clinton getting a blowjob from one of his interns, which to me, like, I could never do that in my job without being fired and stripped of all my licenses, and it would be on ethics grounds, you know. How he didn't get disbarred for that, you know, on the basis of ethics is beyond me, except for people took his popularity into account. And maybe people were making a lot of money during the time that he was president. I don't think that it was just the case of the internet bubble or the tech bubble happening during the Clinton years. I think it was actually policies. I think people felt good during that time, and it was something I want to get back to. He turned a deficit into a surplus. You know, he had everyone's 401ks ringing. You know, I actually feel like voting for Hillary is actually a workaround around another rule that we have, which is you're not allowed to run for more than 2 terms to be president. Well, when you're married to someone, that's a contract that binds your 2 estates. This is the same estate, at least, contractually, that is running for president again. You know, people talk about marriages as if they're a unit sometimes, you know, and that you can't separate the two. How is it that, you know, somebody who a lot of their name recognition comes from being married to a former president is allowed to run? You know, name recognition is a huge fucking advantage. You know, Trump and his name recognition is what's carrying him right now. The fact that he's got his name on buildings, you know, the fact that he's been in the news for fucking decades. He's had a reality TV show. That's what is carrying him. And Hillary Clinton might just have been making a lot of those decisions that went on during her husband's tenure as president. I feel like the name recognition she got from that is an advantage, and also it's like serving 2 terms and then getting another 2 terms if you can get your spouse to run as well. So it's a way of skirting around a weird rule. And it's kind of, you know, it's been talked about that it's kind of dynastic, that we're voting for people from the same families. You know, both the Bush family and the Clinton family. Jeb Bush, he's only in the race right now because of name recognition. He's a Bush. All of that taken into account. I accept that she didn't use her email in the way that it should have been used, and that's a security breach, and that she's corrected it now. I accept that she's part of a dynastic family. I accept that part of me thinks that maybe there's going to be some covert ops that happen that the rest of us aren't going to be aware of. I accept that on the day of the Columbine shooting, there was the most bombs let off in the former Yugoslavia area. I accept that she's been part of an administration that has used drone strikes, just like what happened during her husband's tenure with the long-range bombing, in a way that it is like sending an army of mechanical snipers in to fight for you. There should be another Geneva Convention, maybe, about just the effectiveness and the killing machine that we've created, maybe. I accept all of that, and I'm telling you right now, I would vote for Hillary because the climate that it would create in America and economically would benefit me. Okay? And most everything that goes on the nightly news, on CNN, and on Fox News, all that shit does not fucking matter to my life. It doesn't affect me at all. What affects me is I get fucking taxed a lot for shit that I don't use, and I want to make a lot more money than I do in order to offset that shit. And whoever it is that gets voted in More taxes are going up. That's just the way that the fucking country is headed. I want to make more money to fucking offset that. Okay? And maybe some people get fed, you know, as collateral to me paying a lot of fucking taxes. I don't know. What I do know is I want the country to head in the direction of all of us making more money. That's it. And every other thing that you could vote for as far as ideals, you know, they might not come to fruition. You know, how many times do you hear people talking about the change that Barack Obama promised and then say, well, you know, what has he done? You know, I think that he's done a lot, and there are lists that say how much he has done, but if you take a look at what maybe people were hoping for, they probably weren't hoping for drone strikes or not having the economy rebound. They were probably thinking the economy would work like it did while the Clintons were in office, you know. Yeah, was that the change that we actually were hoping for? That we got, and I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'd rather go back to the Bill Clinton days. I think if we were to keep the same political party in office for longer, just look at the history of when that happens. Every time we have the incumbent win or the same party stay in office, we do better economically. Okay? And so I might have actually made a different decision and sided on the Republican Party for a very liberal Republican if that were the party that were incumbent, you know? Because what makes a difference in my life? My life, okay? I'm not voting in favor of anyone else. I'm being greedy here, and I'm, out of greed, voting for a liberal candidate here. You know? Socially, I think that she's more in line with what I would like politically because she's liberal, but economically, I also think that she's more aligned with what I want. And maybe there are candidates from other parties other than the two big ones that might fit my ideals better, but they're not going to fucking win. And I want my vote to count for something. And that's why I don't vote for third-party candidates. And that's a whole nother issue. Somebody could make a whole video, you know, chastising me for that I didn't vote for Ben Johnson last election because Johnson could have won and we would have had exactly what I want. No, you know what? He couldn't have won. Take a look around. That's all I really want to say about the third party candidates. Take a look around. Really open your eyes and look and see. You got two choices, and if it comes down to Trump and Hillary, because the distraction candidate doesn't go away, of course I'm voting Hillary. Do I think Sanders or Biden have the chance that Hillary has? No. So I really think that there's going to be a discussion on the Democratic side. But is anyone else going to get it? No. It's just not going to happen. Please, if I'm wrong in this video, which a whole bunch of people aren't going to watch because comments are broken. If I'm wrong in this video about Hillary Clinton becoming the nominee for the next election, make a video saying, you were fucking wrong, Agent of Doubt. Haha, your intuition was wrong. Go ahead. Yeah, that's it for this crap video that I'm just throwing out there because filler, because YouTube's broken. And until it gets fixed, I don't feel like making my better videos that I had planned.